So we're talking about ego and spirituality tonight. And a lot of people ask me questions. Oh, they make statements like in yoga, you should get rid of your ego. And I go, really? Who on earth told you that? We need to get rid of our ego. The truth is, we need the ego to be human. If we don't have an ego, we wouldn't have an individual personality. So me being brought up as an Indian and a Hindu, and you would know the same, we always say, okay, don't say too much ego, no ego. And so you always thought that you had to be so little and so small, otherwise you got too big an ego. But when I met my master, I learned. He said to me, I said, Gurudev, do we have to get rid of our ego? And he said, no, Nalanie, you need it. All you have to do is purify it. And then the rest of the journey in yoga was purifying the ego, purifying. We all have a personality. We all have our own character. And isn't that great? Because it makes our life so unique and so interesting. If we were all the same, it'd be so boring, right? And we need challenges to keep us going. And people to keep, triggering us so that we can transcend it and find our peace. That's why we suffer from pain and sorrow in our life, not because anybody's punishing us, but solely because it pushes us forward. It pushes us forward to our spirit. You see, when everything is going right, we forget. We forget who we are. We forget that we are spirit. We get so enmeshed in life. We get so possessive of everything, and we become so attached. This is my home, this is my life, this is my partner, this is the way it has to be. I can't lose it. My friend, we're going to lose everything at the end of the day. Did you know that? Because it's the absolute truth. We're going to lose everything at the end of the day. Does it mean you don't enjoy life? No. Exactly. Now that you know you're going to lose everything, you can really enjoy it, because what makes us sick? Possessiveness, the neediness, the feeling of I have to have, if I don't have this, I'm not happy. And this is the ego we're talking about. So how do we work through it? By constantly reminding ourselves again and again and again that I am really not this body, I'm really not this mind, I'm really immortal. And that's the proof, because science is proving that too all the time now, right? Quantum physics, isn't it great? We are consciousness, we are consciousness, we are consciousness. But as human beings, because we are so physical, that we get so attached to the physical and the material. And it is the physical, this attachment, as the Bhagavad Gita would say, it is this attachment that is making you sick and unhappy. So how do you do it? So the biggest clue my master gave me when I asked him, how do I do this? Was purify the mind. Purify the mind, meditate, he said. Stop complaining, love where you are. That was still a lifetime's work. It doesn't stop. Because there's so much to purify. Because just when you think you've got it, the ego comes and challenges you again. Pride steps in. Because sometimes in the spiritual world, just because you have a little bit more knowledge than somebody else, we think we're better than everybody else. This is the great downfall of spiritual aspirants. And really, to be honest, the spiritual ego is the worst one of all. Why? Because we know better. And if you're really spiritual, and that's why I use the mantra that we started off with. Sorry, everything just feels already so much. So, because it says, you're my mother, you're my father, you're my friend, you're my family, you're my knowledge, you're my wealth. So if you are all that, you are my light of lights, you are all that is in me. So the first step in the ego is to not always think of only I, but change it to we. You will find when your conversation changes to we as my master would say, you really start feeling well. When your conversation is all about I, you will start feeling ill. Notice when you're unhappy, and this is what I did on my search for ego spirituality. What is it all about? I noticed that whenever I was disturbed, it was because I had a personal desire. And when I say personal desire, I'm talking about I have to have, otherwise I'm not happy. And I used to say to my husband, oh, you need to do this for me. You're not the perfect man. How rude is that? How awful is that? That means he had to live all his life just to please me. Do you know, it was I, it wasn't we. It was unkind. I hadn't even noticed that I was so unkind. I was so unkind. And this path taught me that to see everything from the spiritual point of view. And it's not all about me. And it's all about us. And we are sent people in our lives just to teach us and guide us and take us there. I often said my husband was my best ego basher. And I'm so grateful. And when he died, that was my sadness. Who's going to put me in my place now? You know, oh, Nalanie, you're talking like that again. Taught me great humility. And he taught me another way of being, because when you accept somebody who's living with you, who's totally different from you, and you accept them for who they are without wanting to change them, then you know that your ego is balancing. When you want to change somebody all the time, you know already you got a big ego. Because what are you saying? I am better than you, right? And it's a trap spiritual people fall into. And really the spiritual teaching is, you know, everybody has their mission. And everybody has their space and time to learn. Everybody. It's you know, would you scold your 5-year-old child for not understanding how to do an essay for university? You wouldn't. Do you see? You just wouldn't. In fact, you would tell your child, no rush, take your time. Think about it, take your time. But when people are grown up, we don't give them that time. We want everybody to achieve everything just because we know it. And it's always the better way. What I learned from my wonderful husband, because I was vegetarian, and he was a meat eater, but really I couldn't stand vegetables. And this was a really simple lesson. Many of you have heard this, but I just need to repeat it because this is what happens every day, and I keep witnessing this with friends, with people. And, you know, I would say to him, oh, you really should turn vegetarian, you know, this is not good for you, that's not good for you. I wasn't wrong, right? But I was very judgmental. But he loved his meat, and it made him very happy. And what I learned, where I was wrong, was when we would go out with our friends, he would say to his friends, my wife and I make a perfect couple. She eats all the vegetables, and I eat all the meat. And then I thought, who's more the yogi, right? Who's more the yogi? He was willing for me to be the vegetarian. He just, you know what he used to say, I just feel so sad because we can't go to tapa bars anymore because there's nothing you can eat there except salad and chips. But he was sad, so he didn't go to those tapa bars because of me. And what a sacrifice. And I'm supposed to be the yogi, and he was making the sacrifices. So of course when you spend years in meditation and contemplating and understanding what the ego is, you get fine-tuned. And then you see your own mind and your thoughts, because this is the practice of yoga, right? You all know that. Yoga's chitta vritti nirodha tadadrastue swarupe vastanam. What is yoga? The restraints of modification of the mind stuff is yoga. What does that mean? When you learn to restrain and watch your thoughts, and then you stop the negative ones. You restrain. You don't suppress. Restrain. You stop. And then the seer abides in its own true nature. And then when you stop, the mind becomes silent. The noise in your head is stopped. Your mind goes, instead of out to the world, goes inwards. And the mind reflects the spirit. Because the spirit is quiet. The spirit doesn't judge. The spirit just observes. And that's how we get in touch with our spirit. We don't judge. We just watch. We just observe. Doesn't mean you don't make judgments in your life. Of course not. Of course we have to. Otherwise life would be chaotic. But how to make your judgments? All the judgments should be based with that all-over feeling of unconditional love. But that's hard to achieve. You cannot achieve that unless you really understand that you are part of the whole, just like everybody else is. So things like the chants Master Shivananda gave to our master and our master gave to us. I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, immortal self, I am. Chants, you repeat it. And then you ask yourself, is this really true? Oh no, I feel very much my body. That's okay. It doesn't matter you feel very much your body. Then ask yourself the questions. Yes, I feel very much my body, which is not a bad thing, because we're meant to treat our bodies like a temple, right? So then you say, okay, moderation. Moderation is the middle path, as the Buddha would say, right? Practice everything in moderation. Not too much, not too little. Your thoughts. Not too much, because you overthink, you know what happens. Right? Burnout, depression, all these things happen. Not too much, not too little. Because if you think too little also, you'll be very lazy and do nothing with your life. And we are here. We are each here to fulfill a purpose. And only you can know that purpose. And the practice of connecting with your spirit, the more you connect, the less the mind will go outwards, and the less it will focus on what people are thinking and what you should achieve, and oh, how am I looking to somebody else? Oh, I really want this. It's when you go in, that peace is so wonderful and so delicious. Everything else is boring. It just is. It's just boring. It's just, okay, we'll live, we'll have a good time. And while I'm here, let us live beautifully. We're not meant to be miserable. I don't know why the religions say everybody had to suffer and sacrifice to be miserable. When you look at Sri Patanjali and he talks about asceticism, he's talking about meditation. He's talking about controlling your speech. Speech should be beneficial, tranquil, be truthful, and be full of love, and that's how your speech should be. And when he talks about the body, asceticism, he said you should do some exercise, you should watch moderation, don't be promiscuous. These are the things he's talking about. Don't put rubbish into your body. Look after your body. Eat well. And then when he talks about the mind, he said practice your state, your asceticism practice should be keeping the mind full of generous thoughts, loving thoughts, caring thoughts. Because as you think you become. And you've heard this many, many times. As your thought, so your word. As your word, so your deed. As your deed, then your character. And when your character is born, there's your destiny. There's no God to blame. And this is what I love about the science of yoga. This God that we speak of is just this powerful consciousness called truth, knowledge, bliss, absolute. And we were born here to experience that while we're living. But we cannot experience that with a huge ego, either too overinflated, I know it all. And how do you recognize the ego? You will hear words that, for example, you don't have to tell me that, I know it. Yeah, I know all of that. Have you heard people like that? Many times in my life. Many times people come to me for advice. I have to laugh. And they talk, and I say, okay, now you've told me. I think let's start with the practice. So you start with this, oh, I know. Okay, if you know why you're here. Why are you here? You know, right? You don't need me. Let me use my time to serve somebody else. No, Nalanie, but I'm not at peace. So you don't know. If you don't know, admit it. Humility is really important, and that's another great element I learned. Because if you think, and the more I know, the less I know, and this is the absolute truth, and makes life so interesting, because I'm thinking at every moment in my life I can learn something new from somebody. And that to me is so invigorating. I can learn something new from anybody. And I do. Because every patient that comes in or every student that comes in, they teach me something else. The other day we were doing a Raj Yoga course that we're doing for a small group of people, intensive. And they have to give their own talks. And I like them to be original. And they came up with these wonderful explanations in a modern way that from their own lives that I've not heard from books, but it was original. It was how Audrey was showing, using water to show how the breath goes in. Very visual, very nice, very original. And somebody else, because we're always talking about pratyahara, which means sense control. Right? Control your senses. What are your senses? Ears, eyes, nose, mouth, touch, feeling, right? They're always like, oh, this is so delicious, I need to go. Oh, he's so good looking, I need that. Most of the yogic teachings tell us, okay, hold back, go in. Hold back and go in and reflect the light inside of you so you don't get caught up in all of this, right? One of our students came up and she said, you zoom out and watch it. It's the first time I heard that way. In 30 years of teaching, it's the first time I heard it that way. And it just made do you know what? I've been to so many masters, so many teachers, and it's the first time I've heard it that way. And yes, you can zoom out to hold back. You can zoom out, transcend the mind, and say, oh, look, I'm getting so upset over this small thing. How ridiculous is that? You can zoom out. It doesn't have to be zoom in. In fact, I thought that was lovely. So what I'm saying is when we are working with spirit, the more we work with it, the less we are interested in our human problems. So when problems come, of course it's normal to be stressful, normal, accept that, we're human. But you look at the stress, no, I'm human, no big deal. I just have to find a solution as soon as possible. Because if I find a solution as soon as possible, the stress will leave me. Okay. Everything together, it makes life so much easier. And then we together, we as a team, businesses work so well when they work as a team. Because when you include everybody, they just get so happy. And I have seen in my years of work, you need all the different people. A committee in Gibraltar is very strong, and we're building up the one in Spain. They're so strong. And each one has something so individual. And they go, oh, Nalanie, I can't do that. I said, no, you're really good at that. You're really good at events, so you take care of events. You're good with accounts, and she's a great karma yogi. You take care of that. Well, this one, I can't do half of the stuff you do. Okay, this is my place. I can teach all this, but you guys are great. And each of them brings out the best in them. But when we work thinking I know it all and you don't, it doesn't work like that. This is what the ego should be. Purified humility, not afraid to learn something new. And at the same time, keep it clean. Keep it clean. Don't spend so much time on gossip. Big egos, when they want to know what's going on with everybody. I need to know, because I need to know, because I'm the... Stay away from all that. You don't need to know. The more rubbish you hear, the more your mind will be contaminated. There is too much to do in this life to waste time on those things, okay? And if people hurt you, thank them. Just say thank you, thank you, thank you, because now I know either I don't come near you again, you've given me freedom, or either I learn to accept that certain people just bite, and I'm not afraid of the bite. I don't know what your lesson is. Everybody has their own way of dealing with it. You know, Sri Patanjali tells us in the yoga science, do you remember? Disregard the wicked. Don't give it energy. Don't give it energy. But he tells us also, what? Be friendly with the happy people. This is a science. Be friendly with happy people. If you're friendly with people always complaining, guess what you're going to go home with? Guess what you're going to sleep with? Whether you like it or not, the energy is going to affect you. Doesn't mean you're not around unhappy people? No. It says compassion for the unhappy. See how wisdom, you have compassion. Compassion doesn't mean you have to stick with them 24 hours a day, which is what most yogi people do. They have, I have so much compassion, and 10 days later, I'm so exhausted. I don't really want to help that person. They're just really so exhausted. I say, don't be a hypocrite. That's hypocritical. Better not to help someone if you're going to complain after you help them. It's so insincere, it's so horrible. Nobody needs that kind of pity. If you really want to help someone, it should be from love. And if you're too tired, you just say, so sorry, I can't do it today. Be honest, truthful. This is the ego. Because you are part of that spirituality too. And you also deserve to respect that. You see, too little self-esteem is also not a purified ego. Oh, I'm not good enough. My mom used to say, don't say the word I can't. Say, I can. If you have complete faith, what? Nothing is impossible. But you've got to have faith. Where does the faith come from? Yourself. Where's the divine power? Yourself. It's everywhere written. It's everywhere written. Every tradition says, seek the kingdom of heaven within. Look within. Oh, there's the magic key, and we're always looking without. Because why? The ego is so powerful. The mind is so strong. And we keep falling into the same trap. So wake up, wake up. That's what all the masters tell us. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up before it's too late. How lovely to enjoy every single minute focused on when I'm with them, I'm with them. When I'm with you, I'm with you. When I'm with Les, I'm with Les. Do you know every moment is focused? How lovely that I got this divine gift. And I believe all of us, we have it. We just have to remember, be awake, we have it. We just have, and then life becomes in the sorrows, in the pains. It's all beautiful. It's a story. It's a book. Like my book, it's a book. But like my book, everybody has a book in this room. Every single person, we all have books. And every patient has a beautiful story. See, my life is boring. I said, I've just really enjoyed listening to you for 45 minutes. I really have. Because I go, how this creator, whatever it is, energy or whatever, how did it manage? How did it manage to create so many stories and all these different people, So interesting. It's so interesting. Life is so interesting. And when you purify the ego, you make space for that. But if your mind is always thinking, I, me, mine, there is no space for that joy. There's no space for that interest. There's no space for that creativity, because you're always saying, I need, I want, I have to have. Only if this happens. There's a lovely story that Anthony de Mello tells. He was a wonderful Jesuit priest, and if you haven't read his works, read his works. It's all about non-attachment. He tells this story, this man and woman sitting on that bench, and they just got married. And he's saying to his wife, with a very sad face, after a few days after their marriage, he's saying to his wife, now we are married. Only if we had more money, we would be happy.
Oh my God.
But I hear that all the time. I hear that all the time. You know what she answered him? We are already happy. When the money comes, it will be a bonus. Do you see? We are already happy. You're not waiting to be happy. Don't wait to be happy. COVID could hit you around the corner. Sorry, I don't mean to make light of it, but it is the way it is. Could hit you around. You don't know what could hit you. You could be hit by a bus around the corner. We don't know. We really don't know. Don't waste your life waiting to be happy. If you purify the ego, you wouldn't want to wait, because you enjoy the peace as you live and you appreciate every moment. And that's where the spirit comes in. You have to keep connecting to your spirit. And this is where the practices come in. This is where the practices come in. They're only useful to get us there. Once you know it, you don't have to do any of it again. As the Bhagavad Gita says, to the person of wisdom, guess what? All these practices are as useful as a reservoir in a time of flood. They're just guides. They're just guides. It's like anything in life. You have to learn the AB alphabet to learn how to write, right? So all these are spiritual. Yoga has the perfect science. It covers everything. The physical, the mental. Some people wrote in to Anna yesterday and had some questions on this subject. So would you mind if I read out the questions and then answer them? First question: how do we cultivate the right relationship with and purify the ego? How do we cultivate the right relationship with and purify the ego? The right relationship with your ego is the first thing you need to do is love yourself. Love thy neighbor as yourself. And when I talk about love yourself, build the qualities that you respect in others in yourself. So if you respect kindness, notice in your life, am I kind? Or I just think I'm kind and I'm just shouting at everybody else. I meet lots of people like that, by the way. Oh, I'm really a good person, really? I just heard you scream at somebody down the road, you know? So, cultivate that. Are you kind? Are you generous? Are you loving? Do you care? Are you all into yourself? I found that fixing myself and developing those qualities were the most important thing for me. And I saw them all in my master, Sri Swami Satchidananda. So I started with meditating on him as a form. Why? Because when you focus on something, you and it become one. For a long time, isn't it true? How many of you have been with your partner for a long time? What happens? You start to think like them. Nowadays, every other word, we say it at the same time, we both giggle. It just happens, right? It's normal. So, and with my first husband of 34 years, he was definitely like that. He'd be singing a song in the office, and I'd sing the same song in the house, you know? So, that kind of, that made sense. I meditated on my master, and I loved his qualities of straightforwardness. That's what I needed. I was too scared to be myself. I was a bit of a chicken. I was very nice, but didn't feel it inside. Real hypocrite. But I didn't even know, you know? I didn't even know I was like that, which was the scary bit when I started to observe it. I got scared. Is this really me? You know? And then, okay, I don't like that quality, so I'm going to be strong. And I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to be truthful. But start with me first. Okay? So this is how you start working with your ego. This is how you build a relationship. Not by working on somebody else's mind, saying you have to change for me, but I have to change. And once I purify myself, then if you love me, great. And if you don't, it's also fine. You can leave. You know? It's also fine. But this is who I am. Okay? And that's how you work. And this is the relationship also with people. People around you. Ask, why am I with these people? What have they come to teach me? Not why have they come to hurt me, but what have they come to teach me? Because you know, they reflect our weaknesses. So what do I have to learn? In some cases, I'll have to learn to keep quiet. In other cases, I have to learn to speak up. That only you can learn in your own time. And that's called discriminative discernment. Yeah, absolutely. And takes a long time to develop. Don't expect it to develop overnight. All this, you can learn it in a weekend. A lot of rubbish, sorry guys. It's a lifetime of work because it's a lifetime of learning. We didn't need it, we'd be gone. So, and make that learning fun. And that's what you have to see that you deserve. To have fun in the learning and not suffer with the learning. That is the secret. That's how you build a relationship. And recognize if you, like for example, in the early days when somebody would say something harsh to me, I take offense, think about it for 10 days, make a big fuss, right? And then when I started to develop the strength, and when somebody would say something horrible to me, I would say like, you know what, I'm not going to waste 5 minutes on this, I don't deserve it, done. And if I did deserve it, because you do know yourself, you do know when you do something not nice, I will immediately go and say, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry that I created this energy in you. I actually triggered you. I'm really sorry I triggered you. Do you see, ego is both ways, all right? So that's how you would do it. Question number 2. What role does it serve and when is it an obstacle? Oh, we need our ego. You can't be who you are without it. So what role does it serve, being you? And when is it an obstacle? It's an obstacle when it's arrogant, when it's a pain in the neck, when it's always complaining, when it's always the victim, poor me, poor me, poor me. It's aggressive, it's jealous. That's when it's painful and that's when it's not needed. Know those emotions well. Anger. In the Bhagavad Gita it says again, know your worst enemies here are your personal desires and anger. They are the gates to hell. He actually says it, Lord Krishna, to his student Arjuna. They are gates to hell. So, watch. So, that's when it's an obstacle. And when it does serve you, when it's peaceful. So make peace your God, okay? When it's peaceful. It really serves you because when you're peaceful, as you know, your mind is calm. Decisions will be made at the right time, at the right place, in the right way. When you're calm, you know everything just works. And when you're calm in a difficult situation, you actually stay quite steady and you like yourself more because you haven't panicked. I used to always panic. And then now that I don't panic, I love it. You know, freedom, that's freedom, that's freedom. I just think it's such a nice feeling. So that's when it helps. Third question. We often think of ego as being arrogant, but aren't we attached to it also if we are too timid, self-conscious? Absolutely. People who are too timid, too self-conscious, watch it. Watch it. Try and face your fear. This is the only way out. You must. Have you read the book, Susan Jeffers, Face Your Fear and Do It Anyway? Yeah, you really have to. Because that is your learning in this life if you're too timid. So what is more important? Giving love? Yeah. Giving love, caring, sharing. At least everywhere you leave little seeds of love, right? So we can do kindness. You're not a very expressive person. There are many things you can do. Everybody has a gift. Every single person in this world has a gift. There is something you can do. And the funny thing is when you do it, you love yourself more. I remember one of my first students many years ago. She came to the talk and she said to me, oh, I don't know, what's your problem? She said, every day I go to work, I see an old Spanish woman I was living in Gibraltar at that time, going to the escalator, and she looks like not a very happy lady. And she looks at it, and she looks at it, and she doesn't go up. She takes her a long time. I always want to help her, but I'm scared she'll shout at me. So I said, it's your ego that is scared. Go help her. Your soul is saying to you, doesn't matter if she shouts. You need to help her. Anyway, so the next day, apparently she did go to the escalator. She did help the lady. And you know what the lady told her? She said, nobody ever helps me. You are so kind. She didn't want to say it because everybody thinks you're going to shout at them. Because she had that kind of face, but she was really grateful. Anyway, the next session she came to yoga, she was glowing. And I said to her, you are different. What's happened? She said, I've been helping her every day. In fact, I go early so I don't miss her by the escalator because it's given me so much joy. Do you see? As Mother Teresa said, it's not in the big things you do, it's in the small things that you do greatly. And to me, that was such a great example. You don't have to be great to be great. You're already great. She was already great. And today, this woman does so much for the world and does a lot of good deeds. And she started so many businesses. She's gone into herbal medicines and everything, soaps and candles and giving people joy. So, too timid is not good. Too arrogant is not good. Or if we act in roles that we think, look, sound, appear spiritual. Don't pretend to be spiritual. You already are. There's nothing to pretend. Be you. Because in this spiritual world, we get this, Be you. If you're spiritual, it will just come out. Don't pretend. You don't have to pretend. We are already spiritual. We're already spirit. There's nothing to pretend. Just live that energy of spirit in the body that you were given, that is you. There is nobody like you in this world, so remember that. Just don't be a hypocrite to yourself. You can fool the world, but you can't fool yourself when you go to bed at night. Remember that song? Where do you go to, my lovely, when you're alone in your head? Bed, what are the thoughts that surround you? I want to look inside your head. Yes, I do. Yeah? It's true. What are the thoughts that thank you? For me, that's really good. Us lads, I don't have a voice.
That's lovely.
Thank you. But that's it, Where do you go to when you're alone in your bed? What are thoughts that surround you? What do you think before you go to bed? Isn't it nice to go to bed and say, may the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May I be filled with peace and joy, love and light, so I can spread it. Isn't it nice to get up in the morning and say, thank you for being in my life. Thank you for the bright skies and for the rain and for the storms. And thank you for it all. And yes, thank you for the bad day I had. Because you know what? I realized that it's okay to have a bad day. And I realized it's human. Thank God I'm human. Bad days are not bad so long as you don't hurt anybody with your mind and your words. How do you do it when you have a bad day? You warn your family. Hey guys, I got a really bad day coming up. Stay away from me. That's it. That's what I used to do. Premenstrual, I used to tell my husband that before I started yoga, which helped me, get over that. But premenstrual, I said, getting there. Don't, if I say anything, forgive me, ask me to go to the room because I'm practicing. I'm practicing yoga, which is I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, immortal self, but I feel very in the body and I'm very agitated. My hormones are all over the place. Be truthful. And because I was, and I didn't lie to myself, guess what? 2 hours later, locking myself in a room, I was fine. Because why? I didn't repress. Do you see? Spirituality is not repressing, it's working it through, being honest with it and letting it go. Let it go. This is what they mean. Let it go. Surrender. Ishwara Pranidhanam, we call it surrender to the highest.